Meatloaf often suffers from a reputation for being heavy and dry. However, by adjusting the internal chemistry and the cooking environment, it is possible to produce a version that is consistently tender and deeply seasoned. The objective is a meatloaf that maintains a juicy internal texture while being encased in a thick, sticky glaze. To achieve this, we are introducing a specific variable, diced pimento peppers. These peppers provide a unique moisture profile that differs from standard green bell peppers. Begin by preheating the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Prepare a 9 by 5 inch loaf pan with cooking spray and line a separate rimmed baking sheet with aluminum foil. Controlling the initial heat and integrating the pimentos early on establishes the moisture levels required for a tender result. The first step is to soften the aromatics. Heat a tablespoon of olive oil over medium-high, then add 1 cup of chopped green bell pepper and half a cup of onion. Sauté for 5 minutes until tender and let the mixture cool. This comparison shows why pre-cooking the vegetables is necessary. Raw vegetables release their moisture directly into the meat during baking, which can weaken the structure and lead to a soggy loaf. Once cooled, combine the vegetables with 1 cup of breadcrumbs, a half cup of milk, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 2 eggs, and the ketchup. Mixing these binding agents into a consistent paste before adding the meat creates a structural foundation for the loaf. This pre-mixed matrix ensures that seasonings and breadcrumbs are distributed evenly, preventing dry spots in the finished dish. Managing the moisture and binders in a separate bowl ensures the loaf stays together without requiring heavy mixing later. Add 1.5 pounds of lean ground beef and the drained 4-ounce jar of pimentos to the mixture, along with parsley and the dry spices. Drained pimientos are softer and sweeter than raw bell peppers, allowing them to meld into the meat without creating large gaps in the texture. Overworking the beef compresses the protein strands. This creates a tight, rubbery texture instead of a tender, crumbly loaf. Use a gentle clawing motion to fold the beef into the base. Stop the moment ingredients are just combined to keep the protein strands loose. Limiting the physical handling of the meat at this stage ensures the interior maintains the air pockets needed for a light, tender crumb. Press the mixture into the 9 by 5 inch pan. At this stage, the pan is acting as a mold to define the dimensions of the loaf. Immediately invert the pan onto your foil-lined baking sheet and lift the pan away, leaving the meatloaf freestanding. Baking inside a loaf pan creates trapped steam, effectively boiling the meat in its own juices. Removing the pan allows dry heat to hit all 4 sides simultaneously. This encourages surface evaporation and helps the exterior develop a firmer texture. Bake the loaf at 350 degrees for 40 minutes. Use this time to whisk together the final blaze of ketchup, brown sugar, and dry mustard. Moving the meatloaf out of the pan increases the available surface area for the glaze to eventually bond with the meat. After 40 minutes, increase the oven temperature to 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes. Do not remove the meatloaf during this increase. This heat spike quickly dries the outer layer of the meat, creating a matte, slightly textured crust. Glaze often slides off a wet meatloaf. By creating a dry surface first, the sugars in the glaze can bond to the microtexture of the meat, acting like an adhesive. Brush the glaze over the loaf and bake until the internal temperature reaches 160 degrees, which usually takes another 5 to 10 minutes. This temperature shift ensures the glaze caramelizes and remains attached to the meat as it is sliced. Once removed from the oven, let the meatloaf rest for 10 to 15 minutes. This step is mandatory for structural stability. During this rest, the internal temperature begins to drop, allowing the juices to thicken. This prevents the liquid from running out when it is cut. A successful loaf will show distinct red flecks of pimiento and a crumb that holds its shape under the weight of the knife. By combining specific temperature shifts, precise structural molding, and the moisture-retaining properties of pimientos, the meatloaf retains its juiciness while holding a clean, glazed edge.